Scotland's rent control measures have come to an end, so what's next for tenants here? The Scottish Government's next protection for renters are proposals to introduce rent caps in big cities like Glasgow and Edinburgh. Those are still making their way through Parliament and may not be in place until 2027. One country that does have rent caps is Sweden. Prime properties can be rented there for £600, but it's not a perfect system. Decades-long waiting lists and a black market for leases are common. Vanessa Taff has this special housing report from Stockholm.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Managing the twists and turns of the rental market is tough. At this Keighley, in the heart of Sweden's capital, these Scottish expats know a thing or two about getting the steps right when it comes to finding somewhere to live.
It's very hard to find accommodation here, but it's a lot more rules in place about how it's organised. There's very long waiting lists, but then when you do get housing, it is very high quality.
When you buy an apartment in Stockholm, you join what's called a förening, which means it's a housing association, and everyone lives in a housing association. So that's really good because you can buy an apartment and it's always a well-maintained apartment. Even the apartments that are 200 years old look fantastic.
You've got to have been in the queue for years and years to be able to get a place. So when you come over here, pretty much if you're on your own, you're at the mercy of the second-hand letting.
Under an hour away in Uppsala,
Ska vi ha lite bulle?
Daniel lives in a rent-controlled flat. Originally from Clydebank, he moved for university and has started a family, making the country his home.
Kompis, vill du ha med bulle eller vill du ha lite saft?
The £630 a month he pays includes his heating, hot water and some other bills.
We have a ungdomslägenhet, it's called. It's like a youth apartment. So that means that you have to be under 27 when you apply for it. There's no deposit on this flat. I didn't need to give any rent in advance. Here there's just that stability. I don't need to put on the heating. The heating's on 24/7 in the winter. I can't imagine worrying about my boiler breaking down in the middle of a Glasgow winter. And that's what we've done here. And I hope that it can be a model for Scotland.
One of the big issues in cities like Stockholm is just that there aren't enough rent-controlled properties to go around. It forces many people out of the city and into the suburbs. But because of that, there's a huge illegal subletting culture here, with a chain of as many as 2, 3 or even 4 people, with some desperate enough to offer bribes to get into a flat in a desirable area.
To get a rent-controlled home, you need to join a queue. Many do this when they turn 18, but the waiting list is anywhere from 10 to 20 years long.
So this is the queue. Say there's about 600 flats out there right now. So I would be in place 68 out of 126.
Lena secured this one-bed flat in a wealthy Stockholm suburb. Her rent is £615 a month, but it goes up every year. This year, it's by 5.3%. And she can't challenge the increase.
I think the rental market in Stockholm is hard. I can remember my parents when they were young and they sort of walking down to the office and be like, do you have a bigger apartment? And they'd be like, yeah, we have, you can have it. And that sounds like a fantasy to me.
The tenants' union here in Sweden are very powerful. They negotiate with the landlords to keep the rents fair and affordable for tenants. But homeowners say that stifling the rent like this is hampering growth and construction within the housing sector.
The strength of the rent caps is so problematic for landlords, many are leaving the market.
If you look at Stockholm and go back to the 70s, nearly 90% of all the apartments in a part of the city, they were rental apartments. Today, they are like 30%.
The Scottish Government are considering bringing in rent caps. What would your advice to them be?
Don't. Don't do it. I mean, if you look to the economic school book, don't do it because you get a shortage.
While it feels like Sweden's housing system is modern and could be the future for Scotland, there's still the age-old problem of securing a home for the next generation.
Well, Vanessa joins us now. And Vanessa, you've covered housing extensively. What was your impression of it in Sweden?
I was just so struck really by the quality of homes that they have. I mean, as you saw, there was in a lot of people's homes, a lot of houses, and every single one of them is really hot. There's no notion of not putting on your heating. They're all warm, and that really helps protect them from damp. And I think that goes towards keeping that quality so high. As well as that, we saw a wee quick glimpse there of Lena's apartment in my reporting, and she actually took a bath out of her bathroom and gave herself a walk-in shower, and she stores that in her basement. And I've spoken to so many people here who've been fighting to get a walk-in shower, so it's quite fascinating.
And do you think that this is the kind of model that the Scottish Government will seriously bring in here then?
Yes, it is in a way. They are looking towards Sweden and Denmark for inspiration for the rent caps that are going to come in here, but those won't be potentially for another 2 years at least. And ultimately Scotland and Sweden, they're not building enough homes. So while we might be looking to our Nordic neighbours for some inspiration as how to solve this housing situation that we're in here, their model isn't necessarily home sweet home.
All right, Vanessa, well, you've got an extended report on this on Scotland Tonight this evening, don't you? All right, thanks for joining us in the studio.